Shifting to the other team in LA, the LA Clippers, the Dallas Mavericks take a commanding 2-0 lead over the LA Clippers, winning 127 to 121 last night at Staples Center. And this is what we know. We knew that there was bad blood and tensions between these two teams. That's what we knew. Dallas Mavericks obviously took offense to the fact that the Clippers literally tanked their final 2 games of the regular season to face them. That's what we know. All the Clippers had to do was win 1 game against the Oklahoma City Thunder to wrap up the 3 seed. But nope, they wanted to face the Dallas Mavericks, and the Mavericks knew that. They were slighted. They were insulted. And this was their way. They took umbrage to that. And the Dallas Mavericks came out looking to absolutely send a message, not only from game 1 that, hey, we're going to come into your building and win game 1. They came in game 2 playing with that same sense of urgency, same sense of desperation, and same sense of just pissed off mentality that the Clippers would have the audacity and be so pompous to think that they can just roll over the Dallas Mavericks. That's the mindset that they came to that game with. And you look at Luka Doncic, drops 39 points, was sensational, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. He has averaged in his postseason career 31 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, all against the Clippers. 8 games against the LA Clippers. And that's what he's been averaging. And this is just his second postseason. This is still a young pup who's novel. This is a novelty for him. He's in the postseason for just the second time of his career, and he was absolutely sensational. Again, 31, 10, and 9 against the Clippers in 8 playoff games. And I get it that they were shooting incredibly well from the floor, 52.5% from 3, over 52% from the floor. But the reality is, it's that combined with the fact that the Clippers could not defend them at all. And here's the big difference. When you really look at the Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks, the Mavericks were a better team last year. They were a better team last year in the bubble. Took them 6 games. They lost in a grueling 6-game series. Luka Doncic was fantastic. The only reason why they even lost that series, in my opinion, was because Kristaps Porzingis missed over half the games with a sore knee, and obviously got ejected after picking up 2 bogus technicals in game 3, a game they easily could have won. If he doesn't get ejected and doesn't miss over half the series, I think the Dallas Mavericks win last year. So they have a personal vendetta against the Clippers, and it's exacerbated by the fact that the Clippers just showed so much arrogance and no humility towards the Mavericks. That's the mindset that they came out with. Now, I will say this. Kawhi Leonard, that first half for Kawhi Leonard may have been the best stretch of basketball I've ever seen Kawhi Leonard play. That was the best half of basketball I've ever seen Kawhi Leonard play. He was absolutely sensational, absolutely fantastic in that first half. 30 points, 10 for 14 shooting. He was efficient. He was lethal everywhere from the court, on the floor, especially in the mid-range. And he was absolutely sensational. And yet, even with that, halftime score 73-71. They only led by 2, funny enough. They only led by 2 despite that tremendous offensive display in the first half. Because they can't defend. They couldn't defend a lick. They could not defend anyone. And this is surprising for a Clippers team that coming into this game and coming into the postseason was a top 5 defense in the league. They were holding teams to 108 points per game in the regular season. You give up 113 and now 127, back-to-back games at home. And Paul George, listen, I get it, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, but only 1 for 6 shooting from 3. He was a 42% three-point shooter in the league this past season. 2 for 8 in game 1. These are the problems. And when I look at the Mavericks, not only did they answer the call, but where did they separate themselves from the Clippers? Down the stretch. What's been the biggest Achilles heel for the Clippers all season and the past two postseasons? What reared its ugly head again? The unclutchness of the Clippers down the stretch. I thought this team was different. I'm a culprit. I totally thought the Clippers were better. They were locked in, more dialed in this entire season. Kawhi wasn't missing back-to-back games. Ty Lue, I really like him as a head coach. I like the offseason additions of Serge Ibaka. I thought Luke Kennard may space the floor. Nicholas Batum, a savvy veteran. Rajon Rondo, of course, was a member of the Lakers and a really intelligent and he's an ultimate gamer. But you look at the Clippers throughout the regular season, they were one of the 4 worst and least clutch teams in the NBA, only trailing the Thunder, Houston Rockets, and the Detroit Pistons. Out of all 16 playoff teams, Clippers came in as the most unclutched team. This isn't a subjective opinion. This was fact. This was fact. And when we look at the final 6 and 7 minutes of both games, this is where it got away from them. You have Kawhi, as I mentioned, 30 points in the first half, just 11 points in the second half, still finished with 41, which is great. But in game 1, when Rondo put the Clippers up 98-95 with 6 minutes left, Kawhi Leonard went 0 for 2 down the stretch, and the Mavs outscored the Clippers 18-5 in game 2 yesterday. This game was still hanging in the balance. It was a 1-point game for the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard hit 2 free throws at about the 7:34 mark. He didn't score a bucket till the 2:24 mark. In fact, he only took 1 shot in between those 5 minutes. How can Kawhi Leonard go that stretch of time not shooting it again for about 5 minutes or only shooting it once? I understand Marcus Morris had a hot hand. They were trying to ride that wave. But if you're Kawhi Leonard, you have to demand the ball. You're Ty Lue. You have to run plays for him. And that was really the difference. The Clippers could not defend down the stretch. And I just look at this Clippers team, and now you have to travel to American Airlines Arena, a packed stadium, which will be at almost full capacity or near full capacity, at about 15,000 fans, if not more, a hostile type of environment. I'd be worried if I the Clippers. It's a daunting task right now. The irony is this. The Clippers wanted to face the Mavericks. They wanted to avoid the Lakers in the first or second round. They want to potentially avoid the Blazers, who are one of the hottest teams in the NBA coming into that game, coming into the postseason. They wanted the Mavericks. They circled the Mavericks and said, we are going to intentionally lose. And the irony is that this may have just been their kiss of death. They may have just sealed their fate going home. And this may just be the end of this Clippers iteration with PG and Kawhi spearheading the charge. Because Steve Ballmer is not a patient man, paid twice as much for the Clippers organization. He's the wealthiest owner in the NBA. He does not have patience or tolerance for this. And someone's going to go. This implosion that could happen all potentially stemmed from the fact that they wanted to face the Mavericks. And the Mavericks may knock them out in the first round.